See if I can get this. Okay, good morning. This is the October 11th, 2022 meeting of the Hudson Valley Board of Review. This hearing is being held via video conference call WebEx at the following location: Town of Cortland Town Hall, 1 Hetty Street, Cortland Manor, New York, 10567. The time is 9:10 a.m. and this hearing is officially open. The members of the board are Jane Slavin to my immediate right, Megan Smaler to my immediate left, Shaheen Batali from my far right, and my name is Marco Generelli. I'm the chairman. And from the Department of State, in person, we have Erica Krieger to my very far left, and on the WebEx remotely, we also have Neil Collier. We will now hear the scheduled petitions. When you speak, address the board and give your name, title, and legal address so that our court reporter can have all the information requested. We may have to stop from time to time to consult with our technical staff. In making comments to the board, please provide a descriptive narrative on matters referring to your exhibits to enable the court reporter to enter these into the record. What I mean by that, if you refer to a particular drawing or a document, please let us know what document or drawing that you're referring to. Okay. All right. So, what happened? Okay.
It's all good.
Okay. Hey, the first hearing is in matter petition number 2022-0510. The petitioner is the town of Somers. Okay, is someone here to present or on the call to present that case?
Yes, good morning. My name is Stephen Robbins. I'm the consulting town engineer for the town of Somers. The town of Somers address is 335 Route 202, Somers, New York.
Okay. Annette, do you have his spelling there and information?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, Mr. Robbins, before you present your case, I just want to make you aware that today we're normally a 5-member board. Today we only have 4 members. That means when we vote on your petition, there is a possibility of a tie, 2-2. If that happens, what will occur is the meeting minutes from this meeting will be sent to our 5th member, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. That person will read the minutes and then cast a deciding vote. The other option is that you can request an adjournment if you want to present your case to the full board. So I'll leave that up to you. How do you wish to proceed?
No, we can proceed.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Present your case.
Thank you very much. This project is for the town of Somers Highway Department. The Highway Department is up.
I'm sorry. Can I stop you there? I apologize. I have to read in the case first. I apologize.
Please.
Okay, so the petition pertains to a variance to allow construction of a highway garage. I believe it's not a highway garage. It's a salt shed. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the petition pertains to a variance to allow construction of a highway garage salt shed. Occupancy group U utility, 7,300 square feet in area, 1 story in height, located at 250 Route 100, Town of Somers, County of Westchester, New York State. The petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, the Building Code of New York State, Section 3102.3.1, membrane and interior liner material, which states membrane and interior liners shall be either non-combustible as set forth in section 703.5 or meet the fire propagation performance criteria of test method 1 or test method 2 as appropriate of PA 701 and manufacturer's test protocol. The petitioner is seeking relief to allow a combustible membrane. Okay, you can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you for that summary. The reason for the project is that the town of Somers wishes to expand its salt storage capacity. Currently, they have enough for about 2 to 3 storms in their prior shed, and they are looking to get the better part of a winter's worth of salt under storage for the town's use. That would allow them to address kind of back-to-back storms without the need to receive salt deliveries in between. The town is looking to put in a fabric covered frame structure. This is a clear span as a brand name facility. It is a metal frame structure on concrete block foundation that would stand about 41 feet high and be about 73 feet by 100 feet interior space. As a membrane supported structure, we reviewed this with the town's building department and the building inspector, Tom Tuma. We looked at Chapter 31 for special construction, which deals with membrane covered structures and the requirements thereof. As a structure that's not intended for human occupancy, we believe that sections 3102.3.1 and 3102.7 apply per the general instructions in section 3102.1. 3102.7 isn't an issue for us. It's an engineered structure. It meets all other structural loading requirements. And the manufacturer has provided 2 options for the town's use for a either fire resistant fabric covering or a non-fire resistant fabric covering. The reason the town desires to use the non-fire resistive covering and therefore receive relief under this section of the building code that you cited previously is the cost. The fabric structure that is fire resistant carries a 10-year warranty and has an additional cost of $8,000, $9,000 for just the material. Whereas the non-fire resistive construction carries a 20-year warranty and in addition is cheaper. So essentially on that 20-year life cycle cost, the non-fire resistive fabric covering adds $60,000 to $70,000 in total once we account for a full recovering of the facility, including labor, 10 years from now. So the facility itself, again, it's a salt storage facility. There's no human occupancy. And the building would be 30 feet away from any other adjacent structure. The other way we looked at this was in 3102.1 general. It does, 3102.3 type of construction. If we were to use a non-resistive, fire resistive covering, we could be considered a type 5 construction. Under type 5 construction, though we don't meet the area requirements, we are more than the 5,500 allowed, and we are taller slightly by about a foot than the height requirement for a type 5B non-sprinklered building. So we thought it was simpler to apply simply for the variance for the fabric fire resistive coating.
Okay, is that it?
Happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Yeah, we're going to go around and ask some questions.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll start with questions from the board members first, and then we'll move on to anybody else in the audience who wants to have any questions or comments. Okay. So, Shaheen, you want to start us off?
Thank you. I guess really the only question as I'm looking at the site plan is just how close the nearest vegetation is and what the nature of it is. Are there any large trees that are directly adjacent to the building?
There aren't. The nearest vegetation is on the south side. There's a stormwater swale. There's a green infrastructure practice that was put in on New York City DEP property, basically to make sure that we're managing the stormwater appropriately from the highway garage and salt shed facility. So there's There's low vegetation, but no tall trees within well over 100 feet from the facility.
That was my only question. Thank you.
Okay, Jane?
I have one more question. Your narrative states a 25 feet separation to the nearest structure, but you just stated that it's a 25 or 30.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the separation from the new building to the nearest structure.
Yes, I was,
Right. Your narrative says the separation is 25 feet. However, you just described it as being 30 feet. Which one's correct?
So I reviewed this with the highway superintendent, and we are actually going to shift the building a little bit further away from the existing structure from when the time of the petition filing. So my statement of more than 30 feet to the sidewall of the fabric structure is correct. It is more than now the 25 feet. We have modified the site plan slightly since the time of the petition.
What is the dimension then that you'll have to the southern property line? Right now it shows 6 feet on this.
So that the building will actually move to the west slightly as well. They're going to reduce the loading dock area, so that will be greater than 6 feet.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Megan?
Yep. Thank you. Is there anything other than salt stored inside the shed?
No, there's no equipment storage or other materials being stored inside the shed, just salt.
Okay. Will any of the trucks or vehicles ever enter under the shed?
Yes, the loading and unloading operation will involve vehicles inside the shed. The shed is essentially a three-sided structure, with, if you will. There's no front to it, so vehicles can come in and come out. But during a storm and a salt loading operation, there would be a front-end loader that would go in, pick up some salt, back out, and load the vehicles outside the structure. The loading process, most of the vehicular activity would happen outside the salt shed. There'd be a conveyor that would then take that treated salt and convey it into the structure itself. So it's just not any powered machinery inside the building other than a front end loader.
Are there any staff who work inside the shed, not in the front end loaders or any other equipment?
No, there's no office space or other workspace in the building.
Okay, and it has one open end. Are there any other man doors or any other openings in any of the other perimeter walls?
There are not.
Okay. That concludes my questions.
Okay, I guess just to the north of the proposed building, there's a smaller building. What is that there? I'm looking at drawing C2, the site plan.
Sure. That's a diesel loading facility. It's an above ground storage tank in a concrete on a concrete pad.
Okay. Okay, so then you mentioned that the building is open on the north side and closed on the remaining three sides?
It would be, yeah, I would guess I would call it the west side, if you will, but the northwest side, and closed on the too long side and the back short side. Yes, the east side was closed. If we're looking at C200 as an example,
Yes.
on the left-hand side of the page,
Yep.
which is, we'll call it west, it is, that would be the open side of the building. The long dimensions of the building are closed, and then the short wall on the east side, closest to the stormwater basin, is also closed.
Okay, so I'm a little bit confused. What's yeah, you have a loading dock.
Yep.
So how does that, I don't understand how that factors into the total operation here.
The loading pad itself is again just an asphalt extension of the interior finished floor elevation out, so that when they load the circulation of vehicles is perhaps what's unclear. A vehicle to be loaded with salt would drive up behind the highway garage, turn up essentially the alley between the existing facility and the new salt shed, and then pull up essentially parallel to the long dimension of the building. The front end loader would come out that west side of the building onto that loading pad, which is just raised 2 feet from the asphalt on the other side of the pad, to be able to load the salt in onto the highway truck for salting. So that pad itself, again, is just an asphalt extension of the interior floor elevation. But that's the side of the building that's open and accessed.
Okay, so then with the loading dock or pad
Mhm.
situated where it is, and then the distance of from the rear corner of the building to, I guess is that a retaining wall there or something?
There's a property line along that southern border that you see, the dash, long dash to short dash line.
Okay. All right, so I guess my question is, would a fire truck be able to get around the building somehow? Or with the loading dock there and a
Mhm.
2-foot wall at the loading dock, I guess you could not get behind the building that and from that direction, but would they be able to get behind the building from the opposite direction?
The so on the south side of the building, that is there would be a little bit of an extension of asphalt around the building, simply for construction purposes. But beyond that, it's a grassed area, as is currently the case with the salt shed. The front face of the building, the west side, if you will, is all asphalt. There's equipment stored as part of the highway department operation on that side. The rear of the building is fully accessible as well. So certainly a truck getting around to the south side of the building is only impeded by the grassed surface on that side, but it's fully accessible. A truck could not pass around the full extent of the building, but other equipment, landscaping equipment, small trucks, and personnel have full access around the full perimeter of the building.
Is there any way to provide access for a fire vehicle to get around that? I mean, if you have to add some additional asphalt.
Yep, a stabilized surface can be provided along that south side if necessary, yes.
Okay, and that would have to be, what's the minimum weight? Was it 13 feet for a fire vehicle?
I think it's 13 feet, 75,000.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I mean, just as long as the fire department, whatever the fire department needs as far as access and the width of the road, I believe it's 13 feet, but don't hold me to that. Whatever that may be. If
We'll
you can
review it with the
provide-
fire protection board here in town and make sure that they had a chance to review these plans before and they were comfortable with them. But we'll make sure that we go back to them.
Okay,
And provide access on that south side.
okay. I think that's all I had. So let's move on to any questions from any attendees here at the meeting. We'll start with the in-person attendees first. So is there anyone here who would like to comment on this application or petition? No, okay. I mean, you're not hearing anybody. We'll move on to anybody who is attending this meeting remotely. Is there anyone on the meeting remotely who would like to comment on this petition? Okay, anybody there either? So, okay, do you have any other comments, Mr. Robbins?
No, thank you for your time and your consideration.
All right, so we're gonna go now. We're gonna go off the record to go into deliberations. So, Annette, can you take us off the record?
Off the
All All right. You ready?
Mhm.
Okay, Megan, do you have a motion?
Okay. Yes, Mr. Chairman, with respect to the petition of the town of Somers, petition number 20220510, the petition pertains to a variance to allow construction of a highway garage occupancy group U utility, 7,300 square feet in area, 1 story in height, located at 250 Route 100, Town of Somers, County of Westchester, New York State. The petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, the Building Code of New York State, Section 3102.3.1, membrane and interior liner material, which states, membranes and interior liners shall be either non-combustible as set forth in Section 703.5 or meet the fire propagation performance criteria of Test Method 1 or Test Method 2 as appropriate of NFPA 701 and the manufacturer's test protocol. The board makes the following findings. 1, subject petition pertains to construction of a town highway salt storage shed approximately 75 feet by 100 feet with a peak height of 42 feet with 3 enclosed sides and 1 completely open side. 2, petitioner requests relief to allow the use of a membrane that is combustible or does not meet other fire propagation performance criteria. 3, petitioner argues that a complying membrane would be a financial hardship and have a shorter lifespan than the proposed membrane. 4, the local code official has been contacted in this matter and supports the granting of a variance under Part 1205. In accordance with the above findings, strict compliance with the code would entail practical difficulties, unnecessary hardship, or would otherwise be unwarranted because such would create an excessive and unreasonable economic burden. Wherefore, it is determined that the application for a variance from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, Section 3102.3 and 3102.3.1 be granted with the following conditions: that a code-conforming stabilized surface for fire trucks approved by the local fire department shall be provided around all sides of the building. 2, that no fuel-powered equipment or any combustible material shall be stored within the structure. Furthermore, it should be noted that the decision of this board is limited to the specific building and application before it as contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Robbins, are you on?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Right. You heard the motion, so we're going to vote. Do you have any questions before we vote?
I do not.
Okay, so do I have a second to the motion? Jane seconds. All right, so we'll vote now. Shane?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
And I also vote aye, so the variance is granted.
Great. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Annette, we're going to go off the record for a minute. Okay.
We're on the record.
Okay, the next case is petition number 2022-0499. The petitioner is James New. The petition pertains to a variance to allow the legalization of alterations, occupancy group R3, residential, construction type 5B, combustible, 2 stories in height, 2,509 square feet in gross floor area, and located at 62 Nethermont Avenue, Town of North Castle, County of Westchester, New York State. The petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the Residential Code of New York State, Section 302.3, two-family dwellings, which states dwelling units in two-family dwellings shall be separated from each other by wall and floor assemblies not having less than a 1 hour fire resistance rating. The petitioner is seeking relief to allow a two-family dwelling with fire separations less than 1 hour. Okay, is someone present here to present the case? Okay, before we move, before we go, just I'm going to repeat what I said earlier with the first case. So we have 4 members here today, normally 5. So in the event of a tie, the minutes from the meeting would be sent to our 5th member. They would review them, read it, and then if that person would cast a deciding vote. Your other option is you can request an adjournment till the next meeting, which right now is scheduled for the 2nd Tuesday in December. I don't know exactly what that date is, with the hopes of having the full 5-member board. So how do you wish to proceed? Okay. You're just going to have to come up and just state your name clearly for the record so that our court reporter can hear it.
Good morning. My name is Rob. The legal partner. 363 Westchester.
I can't hear him at all. Yeah.
Why don't you just come up here and just speak into this microphone here on my laptop, so you can, so she can, this one here.
Can you guys hear me now?
You hear that, Annette?
Yes.
Okay, good. Repeat you.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Rocco DeLeo, architect, 363 Westchester Avenue, Portchester, New York. Today, we are seeking relief, as the chairman mentioned, to the Residential Building Code, Section 302.3, resistant rating, 1 hour fire resistant rating between dwelling units. This dwelling structure was constructed back in 1923. We don't have confirmed records, but somewhere circa 1970, an addition was placed at the front of the building. In 2010, my client, Mr. New, purchased this building, and he purchased it in the current condition that it exists. With the 2 dwelling units, one being the front, one being the rear. This matter was paused, constructed by my client. Again, this is something that he inherited, and all of this came about through a complaint from a neighbor, through someone illegally parking the street in front of the driveway. So this kind of opened up further review of this structure, and through various applications, one being the zoning. The other variance we're seeking for now, again, pertains to the separation between the dwelling units. The hardship is twofold. We have a financial hardship. We're estimating costs to accommodate the fire rating of the demising wall between the 2 dwelling units, as well as the ceiling of upwards of $100,000. Because unfortunately, in this particular case, we have a wet wall, a bathroom up against that demising wall, a kitchen, and since the apartment is so small, a large portion of that apartment will have to get demolished in order to accommodate the fire rating. Secondly, there's a logistical hardship here. My client's sister-in-law lives in this apartment, and given how small it is, there is no area of enclosure that she could partially occupy while this construction takes place. So she would have to be completely removed from the apartment in order to accommodate this section of the building code by maintaining the 1 hour fire rating. In terms of the fire rating, what exists is a single layer of 1/2-inch chipboard on either side of the wall with a 2x4 wood frame partition at 16 inches on center. And that gives us a fire rating of 40 minutes rather than the 1 hour that is required by code. So to help mitigate uh, the lack of fire protection in this demising wall, Mr. New, the owner of this property, would be willing to add additional fire protection measures to, create a safer condition. He's willing to put fire sprinklers within each dwelling unit on every floor of the dwelling unit, of each dwelling unit. He is also willing to put hardwired interconnected fire alarm devices, smoke and carbon monoxide detectors in each unit, as well as every floor in each unit, as well as in every bedroom of each unit. And we're willing to also extend taking those fire alarm devices and connecting them to central station so that they are monitored in case there is an emergency. So that is our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions. And Jim, would you like to say anything? Or?
It's up to you. Just come on up and you gotta speak. Just state your name and spell it, please.
Yes, my name is James New, N-E-W spell. I'm the homeowner of the property that is in question here. And just to reiterate what Mr. DeLeo had just mentioned, I'm living on that street. Well, I'm a neighbor. I actually live on that particular street. I bought the house in 2010, 27 years after I had originally moved in. The apartment was always there. And I have some testimony from some neighbors who wrote letters to the town of North Castle, just reiterating that this was a structure that was existing. I didn't do anything there, so I kind of inherited this problem. It came as a surprise to me when I was served a notice, because when I purchased the property, there were no violations, there was no outstanding, and I had a CO on the property. So going through the process with the town board, and we Rocco had submitted for the variances we were granted. I just wanted to give you a little bit of history there, but I am willing to put the hardwired smoke detection system in and additional fire extinguishers if needed. And I'm a proponent of that. They already have fire extinguishers, and there already is a hardwired 110 volt carbon monoxide / smoke detection system in the house, but I would change that to a system that has a central station that would dial into the local fire department if it's granted. I have no problem doing that. I'm a big proponent of that. My sister-in-law, it's a small little apartment. She's got nowhere to go. And that would create a major hardship for her. I mean, the other apartment's going to be intrusive to them. If those tenants work from home every day, we talk about major construction here, putting sheetrock walls up, taking down banisters and stairs and ceilings and taping and everything that goes into construction here. So the hardship is going to be on the tenants, and they may have to move out for a period of time. And the one tenant in the small apartment, like I said, just doesn't have anywhere to go. There's no retreat in her house like the other apartment does. So we hopefully that the relief that we're seeking would be approved, and we'll go forward and do that.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll open it up to questions from the board. Shaheen?
Thank you. We have a few questions here. So there's no attic in the building? Attic? Not accessible, great. Is there a basement? Is that habitable? Are there,
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing any answers. I'm just hearing the questions.
Can you hold on a second? I'm sorry. Annette, you able to hear that?
I'm sorry?
Hold on a second. Sorry. And Mr. New was just speaking. Were you able to get that?
No.
No, all right. You're gonna have to speak again.
So the question was, does the house have a habitable basement? And on the larger portion of the house, it is a habitable basement. It's a finished basement with a laundry room and a small half bathroom. Under the smaller apartment, it's just a laundry room. It's not habitable. And no attic space. There is an attic. It's about 3 feet high, but it's not accessible.
Thank you. Following up on that, in that basement or in any other space, do you have, what type of heating equipment? Is it gas fired in there?
Yeah, it's an oil fired.
Oil fired boiler? Oh, and the tanks in the building or underground? Cool.
Very,
Very
very.
good. Is the ceiling of your basement is therefore sheetrock right now? Right, because it's all finished.
Yeah.
Great. And the building's on public water supply?
Correct.
It is. And I think there was maybe a little bit of an error in speech. I think the word sprinkler was used by your architect, but I don't think that was intentional. Is that correct? No.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to come up here.
Oh, that was one of your questions. Yeah.
No, fire alarm is
Oh,
what I
right.
meant to say.
Of course. I thought so. I just wanted to confirm. Thank you. And so I think that was, and there was mention of fire extinguishers. Could you elaborate a little bit on what's there now or what you're proposing?
Well, they're just small fire extinguishers that I have in each kitchen right now. But if the board would like me to furnish additional fire extinguishers, that's not a problem. We can just continue to replace them throughout the apartments.
If that's helpful. Sure. All right. Thank you. That was my questions. Thank you.
Marco,
Jane?
Marco, there's a lot of feedback.
When you purchased the structure, what did the CO say?
It was a single-family house with an accessory apartment.
It said it on the CO?
It didn't say it on the seal, but the documentation from the town that there was an accessory apartment back in 2002. I had a document. The previous owner looked like they were going to refinance. In 2002, there was a fax that was sent to the town that said there's an accessory apartment. It was legal, and I brought that up at the town board meeting, and it was never. They didn't have a record of any answer to that question.
Okay, but it didn't, none of the CO doesn't reference the accessory apartment.
No.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Megan?
Yes, thank you. I was wondering about the construction of the ceiling of the smaller apartment and the floor of the larger apartment above it. What is the construction there?
The construction is 2x8 wood framing, 16 inches on center, with plywood sheeting on the top side and a half-inch layer of gypboard on the other side.
Okay. So it's all hard ceiling, not acoustical ceiling tile or?
Correct. So,
The bathroom above it, right?
correct. The eave line on the back.
Are any of the, how do I want to phrase this? The window openings in the smaller apartment, are they properly sized to be rescue openings? Egress?
So at the moment, the one window, double one window in the bedroom, is not properly sized, but there's a restrictor on that window that's replaced window that is prohibiting it from opening up one more inch to allow it to comply with the 5.7 square inch per square foot rule. So we do plan on modifying that stop by cutting it down 1 inch to allow that window to open and meet the code. So not currently, but as part of our building permit application, it will.
Okay, and how about then, same question for the larger apartment?
The larger apartments. The larger apartment does have a larger window. They have 2 3-row windows, 3x5 double windows, which do comply. That's on the first floor. Let me just double check this. On the second floor, a similar sized window, 2641, that exists would be a similar situation to the existing bedroom on the ground floor of the first floor, so we would have to, well, that one does not comply.
Okay, would that be something that you would be willing to replace windows to meet code required emergency? Okay.
You gotta speak up.
Yes, we could. And we will.
Okay. You mentioned that the larger apartment in the basement, there's a habitable space. It says the plans that we have, A101, say existing living room. There's also an existing living room on the first floor. Can you further expand on what that room is used for? And that would be directly under the smaller apartment. That's correct.
It's referring to the living room.
In the basement.
I guess the simple question is, what is this room used for? The room in the basement, it says living room and.
It's just, there's two people living in the house. They just use it for a feeding room or whatever.
Okay. It is not used as a bedroom.
Oh, no, bedrooms. Absolutely. Yeah.
A101. Yeah, I think I mentioned it, but, okay, that concludes the questions, Marco.
Okay, I don't have any questions at this point, but. Sure, go ahead, Shane.
So if we could just please clarify, so just circling back to the basement. So is there a second means of egress out of that basement currently? And
Yeah, there's a door right here.
there is, cool, that goes out.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. And those existing staircases, do we know the width of them by any chance? And whether or not they have proper height clearance?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, they seem depicted as 3-foot stairs. I was just wanted a point of clarification. And I guess the last thing I was hoping to get just a tiny bit of clarification. If you could just briefly, very briefly discuss what's entailed in modifying that sheetrock or that gypsum board from 1/2 inch to 5/8. Could you just a little bit elaborate on what the burden is or,
Sure. So if you take a look at the existing first floor plan, that's Plan 2 on A101 of Exhibit A, you'll notice that up against that demising wall, there is a bathroom, specifically an existing tub. Immediately adjacent to that, there's a kitchen with a stove, refrigerator, and lower and upper cabinets. There are intersecting walls between the living room and the bedroom. There is that closet in the bedroom. So pretty much we would have to demolish a large portion of that bathroom, the entire kitchen, and all of the sheetrock walls along that demising wall within the living room and the bedroom, including the ceiling in the living room and the bedroom to accommodate that layer of 5/8, as well as on the opposite side of the apartment, you have that exercise room, which is less intrusive than the smaller apartment, but yet 2 out of the 3 walls in that bedroom, exercise room, would have to be demolished, as well as the wall where the staircase is and the modification that would be necessary to that staircase in order to accommodate the layer of 5/8.
Got it. Thank you. That was exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Of course.
And then if you did know the size of the staircase, if you don't, it's totally acceptable.
So I don't have a written dimension here, so
Sure.
I'm scaling it off the drawing.
Okay.
And it's scaled to be 3 feet.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, at this point, we're going to see if there's any questions or comments from anybody in attendance here today in person. Is there anyone here that would like to offer any comments or questions regarding this petition? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
sure. Erica?
It's our previous state. I did speak to the code official, Mr. Galillo, who satisfied with some of the.
That he, so he was satisfied.
Yes.
Okay.
He's traveling and whatnot.
Okay, and is there anyone on the WebEx call, remote call, that would like to speak regarding this petition? By the time I speak one, that would be good. Not hearing anybody? Okay. All right, so I guess we'll go into deliberations. Annette, can we go off the record? Did she say we're on? Yeah, I was, yeah, speak, okay. We're on? Okay. Okay, Megan, do you have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with respect to the petition of James New, petition number 2022-0499. The petition pertains to a variance to allow the legalization of alterations, occupancy group R3 residential, construction type 5B, combustible, 2 stories in height, 2,509 square feet in gross floor area, and located at 62 Nethermont Avenue, Town of North Castle, County of Westchester, New York State. The petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the Residential Code of New York State, Section 302.32 family dwellings, which states, dwelling units in 2 family dwellings shall be separated from each other by wall and floor assemblies having not less than 1 hour fire resistance rating. The board makes the following findings. 1. Subject petition pertains to the legalization of an existing 2 family dwellings occupancy separations. 2. The petitioner requests relief to allow the existing construction to remain. 3. Petitioner proposes to provide interconnected and monitored smoke alarms. 4. Petitioner argues that it would be physically impractical to replace existing construction while the building is occupied. 5. The code official has been contacted in this manner and did not originally support the granting of a variance under Part 1205, but is satisfied with the alternatives being offered by the petitioner. In accordance with the above findings, the board finds that in the case before it, strict compliance with the provisions of the Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code would entail practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship, and would be unnecessary in light of alternatives which, without a loss in the level of safety, achieve the intended objective of the code. Wherefore, it is determined that the application for a variance from 19 NYCRR Part 1220, Section 303.2 be granted with the following conditions. 1. That interconnected smoke alarms monitored by an approved supervising station shall be installed. 2. That additional fire extinguishers shall be provided throughout both apartments. 3. That existing windows that don't meet code prescribed emergency escape and rescue openings will be modified or replaced to meet code. 4. The basement cannot be used for sleeping purposes. Furthermore, it should be noted that the decision of this board is limited to the specific building in the application before it as contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. Based on the above findings, the board finds that practical difficulties and or unnecessary hardships would be encountered or caused by compliance with the strict letter of the law and would be unnecessary in light of alternatives which, without a loss in the level of safety, achieve the intended objective of the code, and such that granting a variance would not substantially adversely affect the code's provisions for health, safety, and security. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Before we vote, do you understand the motion? Do you have any questions? Okay. Okay, do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
15 seconds, so we'll vote individually. Shane?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Variance is granted. Okay, Ned, we're gonna go off the record before this next case. We got a see if we can work out a technology issue, and then we'll get back on. Okay?
I have a question. Would it be possible,
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
sorry, would it be possible for them to use the computer that is set up looking at your table?
It's actually an iPhone.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, if they stand near my laptop, that's what I had the other applicants doing also. Was that okay, or?
They just, when they step away to start talking, to present
Yeah.
their case, and I have a hard time hearing at certain points.
Yeah, okay, I'll make sure that they stand near the table when they speak.
Okay, thank you.
It's on and off. But I could unmute this one and sit here.
All right, and then we're gonna sit them near Erica's computer. All right, so you'll be able to hear them better.
Just as in terms of a test, can you hear?
Sit.
Can you hear them?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Grab a cup.
So I'll set my speaker off.
Let's sort that.
He's muted.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Just don't.
Okay, so we're on the record, correct in it?
We're on the record, yes.
Okay. Okay, just let me read the case. That's not it. That's not it. That's it. Okay. Okay, the next case is petition number 2022-0545. The aggrieved party or the petitioner is Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, Inc. The petition pertains to a variance to allow construction of 4 laboratories, occupancy group B, business, construction type 1B, fire resistant, 5 stories in height, approximately 1,086,300 square feet in gross floor area, and located at 777 Old Sawmill River Road, Town of Greenberg, County of Westchester, New York State. The petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR, Part 1221, the Building Code of New York State, percentage of maximum allowable quantities, section 414.2.2, which states the percentage of maximum allowable quantities of hazardous materials per control area permitted at each floor level within a building shall be in accordance with table 414.2.2. The petitioner is seeking relief to allow quantities of hazardous materials greater than table 414.2.2. Okay, is there someone here that's going to present the case?
I'm just going to start off.
Okay, just obviously say it, spell your name for the call report.
Okay, my name is Kim Martin, KIMMARTIN, and I am with the owner, Regeneron. So just a brief introduction. Regeneron is an international biopharmaceutical firm. For the past 30 years, we've been developing life-saving medications. We're well known for our medication Eylea, which has helped people worldwide with macular degeneration, has helped them regain their sight. We were instrumental in developing medications to fight COVID, and among various other very revolutionary innovations over the last 30 years. We also support the community. We're providing jobs for the community. And we have high sustainability goals. So we're here before you to present this Great Plain issue for the complex of research and office buildings that we are constructing in Westchester County. So I'm here, our senior director is on the line with the Real Estate and Facilities Management Group, and I'm here with our architect and our code consultant. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, Just before we go any further, and I forgot to do this, my apologies. And you heard me at previous cases, today we have a 4-member board. Normally we're 5. So in the event of a tie today, what we would do is forward the minutes of the meeting to the 5th member. They would read the minutes and then cast a deciding vote. The other option for you today would be instead of proceeding today, you could request an adjournment to the next meeting in December, where hopefully we would have 5 board members. So which option would you like to proceed with?
We'd like to proceed today.
Okay. All right, so you can present your case.
I'll just introduce myself really quick. Kevin Warren with CCI Code Consultants, Inc. I'm the partner in charge at CCI for the Regeneron project. I want to introduce myself, so I'll probably interject at some point during the presentation. We'll let Patrick run through the presentation that's in front of you. The PowerPoint is really a high-level summary of the package that you have in your hands. We can also submit that as part of the record if you'd like post-meeting.
Yes, we will need that. Yeah.
Okay, my name's Patrick Cox. I'm the project manager on the team here. I'm a registered fire protection engineer in the state of New York, so I have my PE. As Kevin mentioned, we've been sort of handling the project from a fire protection and life safety perspective. And so just to give you a little bit of background, I'm sure Ed may chime in here and there to sort of square away some of the square footage questions you may have and stuff like that. So Doug may talk as well. But with that said, if you want me to, I can run through the presentation, talk about the request.
Please do.
Okay, so as part of the campus development at Loop Road, there's going to be a number of buildings that are going to be built on the Loop Road site. Well, sorry, maybe I'll just go to the agenda first. Let's do an introduction. Then we'll talk about the campus concepts and the buildings that we're constructing and the building functions, the fire protection, life safety systems, control areas, part of the request that we have today, and then why we think it's acceptable. So we go to the next slide, Lisa, if you can hear me. General building functions and fire and life safety systems. So this is sort of a high level. This is what the project looks like, from an aerial view here. So the specific request today is about the research and development buildings, but we'll touch on the other projects that are here. So the buildings highlighted in yellow are Regeneron amenity buildings. Those are just your assembly buildings. They connect over to the research and development buildings by pedestrian walkways. And then you have the B20 building on the left side of the page, which is highlighted green. That's our central utility plan. So that gives all the sort of utilities to the rest of the buildings. The overall site itself for scale is about 35 acres. It's 1 million plus square feet in development. And as you can see, everyone's looking at the presentation, but there's a gray road that loops around the site. You see from the left, comes around the bottom, around the backside of the buildings and up. That's the Loop Road connector or Loop Road. That's important for what I'm going to get into the next detail. So Loop Road, and then again, another important detail is that these buildings are built on a elevated plaza relative to the Loop Road that's going around the site. So we go to the next building, or sorry, next slide. Here's sort of a axiometric view of the site. You could see that there's different elevations here. There's the plaza, which is highlighted in yellow. And then there's, again, the Loop Road, which is shown in gray around the site. Again, the focus of today is to discuss the blue buildings, which are research and development buildings, which is where they're be developing medicines and so on and so forth. Those are our technical lab buildings. We can go to the next slide. So what these buildings have below the plaza level is all 3-hour rated construction. We're referring to it as the podium. Above that are the type 1B buildings, the research and development buildings, and some of the other structures. Again, we're only focusing on the research and development. Those are 1B, which is essentially 2-hour rated structures. We have sprinkler protection throughout. We have class 1 standpipes throughout every stairway. Automatic fire alarm system throughout. It's a combination of voice alarm. So that's also another great system. Emergency lighting, course emergency and standby power, elevator emergency operations for the fire department, and supervision of the sprinkler and fire alarm systems. So just high level what we have fire protection wise at the site. We go to the next slide, please. So our request today is to classify what is our first story above grade plane, right? Which is the technical definition is shown below for what is technically defined in the building code as first story above grade plane. For our site, it is actually the loop road connector. Again, coming back to the road that circles around the site, that is technically our first story above grade plane. What we are here to request today is to call the plaza level our first story above grade plane. And the reason why we want to get that request is because the levels above the plaza where the research and development is occurring is where they'll handle the hazardous materials and do the research for medicine. So they'll have flammable combustible liquids up there, gases. And this table tells you, depending on where you have your first story above grade plane, what your limitations are. So what we are trying to do today is to call the green box, for simplicity, plaza level, and that is how we will handle our hazardous materials within the buildings. What if loop road connector were to become the first story above grade plane, like I said, which is technically what it is, then we would have to live within the limitations of the pink box. So we get a little bit less per level going up. But that's sort of the request that we have today. And if you're not familiar with control areas, essentially, it's almost like a pyramid, right? You're allowed to have 100% of your materials or maximum allowable quantities, and then that tapers as you get higher in the building. And then it does the inverse below that, right? So it tapers as you get further and further down below grade. And that's purely about fire department access, because they don't want them traveling, to the 10th, 20th story where you have all these combustible liquids. So they start limiting them. And the same thing like when you go below grade. The reason why we think it's acceptable to call plaza the first story above grade plane is because we have all the bells and whistles, which I'll get into. Fire department access, we have fire hydrants up there, the buildings are fully sprinkled, we have our fire department connections up there. So that's why we want to call the plaza level our first story above grade plane. And also, for all intents and purposes, the levels below the plaza function like below grade. And we don't have research and development down there, so it's most essential to have it above the plaza at those three levels.
Can I just interject? Kevin with CCI. Just by way of history, we discussed this concept both with fire and building department. They both asked that we go to the ICC and get their opinion. We went to the ICC, the creators, of course, of the building code. They said it's a very reasonable approach, but we don't have the mechanism or authority to grant a variance. Go back to your building and fire officials. So we went back to building and fire. They said, yeah, we agree with the concept, go to the state for the variance. That's why we're here today. Like Patrick said, essentially we're raising grade for a 35-acre site to that plaza level. All the ingress to the buildings is from the plaza, egress from the buildings to the plaza, fire department access is from the plaza, fire hydrants on the plaza. We have a few renderings we can show. I think they were also in your package, and we'll submit this PowerPoint again at the end of today's presentation.
Yeah, so Lisa, we can go to the next slide.
And I believe we do have the town on the line and
Yes.
letters of support in the variance package we submitted.
Yeah, I think Garrett's on the line. So here's just a quick example, right, of what this means. So if Loop Road were the first story above grade plane, that means we're allowed to have 400% of our maximum allowable quantities of materials at Loop Road. We get to the plaza, now we're limited to 225% of maximum allowable quantities. What we're here to request today, as you can see, the proposed approach is to call Loop Road actually, because like I said, you get limitations as you go below the plaza. If that's first story above grade plane, we would have Loop Road be 225% to maximum allowable quantity, and then 400% at the plaza. So we're essentially inversing the two quantities. But like I said, it's important to do that because above the plaza is where the research and development is actually taking place. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so here's the features on why we think the plaza level should be first story above grade plane. For context, the red highlighted road is our fire department access. Again, the request is specific to B23, B22, B27, and B26, sort of those crooked type buildings in a way. So you can see the fire department access actually goes around the entirety of the site and goes to the front of all these buildings. We also have the main discharge and main entrances to the buildings at the plaza level. We have our fire command centers at the plaza level, so it's going to be the response point by the fire department. We also have hydrants they're a little tough to see, but you can see they're outlined in red. They're around the perimeter of the whole loop road. And then at the fire department's request, because they said that, you know, as the response point at the plaza, they would like additional fire hydrants at the plaza. So we actually provided 3 more hydrants at the plaza level for them to hook up. And then, of course, we'll also have standpipe connections at each of these buildings, or sorry, fire department connections at each of these buildings to help out with the hydrants. So we can go to the next slide. That was it, actually. So a little lost in the PowerPoint there, but yeah, if you have questions, by all means. Yeah, and just to reiterate again, I mean, the town is on the call. If they would like to speak up in support of this concept, by all means, maybe now would be the time.
Well, I want to get the board members' questions in first.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll move on to anybody else. So, Shaheen, you want to start us?
Are the buildings classified as high rises? They are.
The 4 R&D buildings are classified as high-rise. We're using Kevin, CCI, we're using the podium tower approach in the building code where you have a 3-hour slab. Everything above the slab can then be evaluated separately for an area for a construction site. But these 4 R&D buildings are full high-rise with a full high-rise package.
And then, so and how many stories are above that slab then?
So above the plaza is a 4-story.
It's just a 4.
Yeah, 4-story.
And it's high-rise if you measure all the way down to Loop Road. We're not asking for any relief from high-rise, strictly for application control areas.
Right. And to reiterate one more time, we're shifting that first level. So if we're talking about, I'm assuming you probably have 3 levels below the plaza, 3 or 4?
So below the R&D buildings is actually just a really double height space. So it's actually just 1 story below. It's about an elevation difference from the low point of Loop Road to the plaza, about 21 feet.
Adjacent to the R&D building, Kevin, CCI, adjacent to the R&D buildings, there is 2 levels of parking, but almost majority of the space below the plaza is parking for thousands of cars. In the R&D buildings, there's double height space below the rest of the R&D building for mechanicals and all the equipment that's required for those R&D buildings.
Okay. So it effectively acts as a 5-story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
5-story high.
It is a high, probably because it's over 75 feet.
It's a huge, I mean, the scale is just really hard to comprehend. That's why I keep saying 35 acres. I mean, we're building an elevated park that, you know, dives into a hill based on the existing topography. Then all these buildings will grow out of that park. So when you're standing on the plaza, you won't realize there's 2 levels of parking below you.
And could you elaborate what it is that the materials that you are storing that are hazardous?
Kevin, CCI, I think that a lot of that is to be determined, but based on the existing labs that are at Regeneron, we've analyzed several of those buildings. It's primarily combustible and flammable liquids, gases, oxidizers, but we have nothing that's going to deflagrate or any highly explosive content. It's really all about research and development for medicines.
And it's safe to say that the containment and storage of all of that material would meet the code?
100% code compliant. Our whole intent is to be within the MHUs, the maximum minimal quantity, so that we are not classified as hazardous. We're always within the limits to be classified as business use.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit of context to that, the control areas that we have at each level where we are storing the materials are enclosed or separated by 2-hour construction.
Okay. All of them.
Or 1, yes, depending on what level you
Based on
are.
that chart.
But it's 1 or 2-hour enclosure for where we're storing the stuff. Yeah.
And every space is sprinklered and a standpipe.
Yes, 100%.
No hose cabinets.
No.
Hose valves, no hoses.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, there'll be hose connections. The fire department will respond with their hose. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, Jane?
Okay, so the plaza doesn't exist at all right now. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct.
Okay.
It's
So,
a sloping site, if I may. And so we're building into the site essentially and raising what will feel like grade up to that plaza level.
and all the buildings though are existing.
All new.
This is just a forest right now. We're just getting chopped down and built up.
Okay, so the fire department access comes in off that, from the north side?
Correct, on the loop road, yep.
And the entire road will be large enough and meet the specs to support the fire trucks?
That is correct.
Right, not just the area that you highlighted.
Both roads, the loop road
Yeah.
that goes all the way around the site, yes,
Right.
and the highlighted red
The
fire
whole
department
entire.
access road
Yep.
on top of the plaza.
That is correct.
That's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. Megan?
Yes, so I had a question about the fire command centers. How does that work? Are those staffed or are they just somewhere that the fire department responds to, like an enunciator panel or?
Kevin with CCI. I don't know if we know if they're staffed yet, if they're 24/7, but they are code required fire command center for high rise. So they have the full package of the high rise building, but there's no doubt 100% they'll be monitored. I just don't know if they'll be 24/7 staffed. Obviously, Regeneron is what they do, has a pretty robust security staff. I guess they probably will be 24/7, but I don't want to commit to that.
Okay.
But it will be fully supervised, of course.
Speaking of hours, the R&D work, does that happen 24/7 or are there?
There will definitely be staff on site 24/7.
Okay. So any of these materials can be used at any time of day?
I don't want to speak for Regeneron, but based on the research that they do, and we just came through a pandemic when COVID was happening. I mean, this was like a 24-hour a day operation, right? Trying to find cures and solutions to these issues. So I would assume it's a 24/7 operation.
Yeah, we would primarily do it during normal business hours, but there is absolutely staff on site.
A lot of it's experimental too, so you're checking on experiments, checking on,
So safe to say that during regular business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 are the most occupants in these buildings. And then it's limited to, could you hazard a percentage of occupancy on the, not really.
That's
Yeah. Okay.
tough to quantify.
Just trying to
And
judge.
as Kevin was
Yeah.
saying, it does depend on, the climate and what we're dealing with at any given time, what's under development.
This is Ben Suzuki. Could you guys hear me?
Okay, your,
Ben Suzuki,
oh,
Yeah, I'm the head of engineering, design, and construction globally for Regeneron, and we can certainly follow with any.
It's coming through the phone, but it's not coming through.
hold on.
Sorry, Ben, just 1 second.
Can you hear me now?
I turned it on. Could you, I turned mine on here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we can, if there's a specific question such as, do we have staff after hours, we can get you a, the kind of correct corporate answer. But, essentially, when we say regular hours, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, there's scientists here regularly. I got to say up until around 6 or 7 o'clock. They tend to come a little later, work a little later, just the nature of scientists. Might they be here on a weekend? Maybe, but it's ad hoc. And, we have operational people here 24/7. We have security people here 24/7. We have all the safeguards 24/7. You can't be a biotech company in the United States without those measures. As far as people working, 99% gone, I would say is a pretty safe number most of the time. When there is a pandemic and the world calls upon us, that's a little different. So, can that change? It could. But on a normal kind of routine business as usual, it's a very low number of occupants other than the essential staff that are maintaining equipment, security personnel, monitoring the site. Those are really the regular staff after hours.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to turn it off for a second again. On your list of fire protection and life safety features, which you had in the package that we got, as well as on a slide, the voice alarm communication system, the emergency voice alarm communications, on the slides, it indicated, oh, thank you, except parking podium areas.
Correct, yeah, below the plaza. And the reason is for that, we did complete graded separations, either 2 hours on the side or 3 hour at the plaza to self-contain the garage. And we did not do voice alarm in there. We did horn strobe inside there. And the reason is you can't meet the intelligibility inside a garage through the voice alarm, given all the openness through the ramps and so on. So we thought it'd be best to separate it out. Yeah.
All this kind of thing happens, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay, I just wanted to ask about that. And then also, in the package, it said select coverage smoke detection. Can somebody explain that to me?
Yes, that's in the specific areas where required, such as mechanical, electrical rooms, elevator machine rooms, outside the elevators for elevator recall. But it does not mean that you have smoke detectors throughout the entirety of the building.
Also outside the stairs, the stair pressure.
There's a stair pressure station, right?
Okay. The areas of the podium below the lab areas, are they, you describe them as 2-story mechanical areas. Do they house any offices or regular staff?
Don't know if I would be able to answer that. Maybe Doug or Lisa could.
Yeah, this deck comes with flat architects. Lisa Wilson is on the line also. The buildings, 22, there is operations in a subgrade level. So there's 27 are, there's washing, there's washing and loading docks, there's ancillary support activities in the basement. Well, it's below the plaza level, in lab 23 and 27.
Okay. So potentially some people working in there, if not housed in their office.
Yes, so
Okay. And then I just wonder, I'm not super familiar with this type of occupancy. The control areas on the upper floors, as we go higher, there's less of the material able to be used. Would those be located in a certain spot on each floor? Would they be closer to the plaza side where the fire department access would be? Is there any thought to that?
It's an operational thing. So day to day, it's not totally clear. It depends on where they set up the lab space, but the concept is, let's say you're on level 2, you have 2 control areas. They're separated by, let's say, 2 hour construction or 1 hour. That material can live within that particular control area anywhere, essentially, provided it's within the limitations of that it's allowed.
Okay.
So it's not like it's in one particular area, maybe stored and handled in one area, then transported to the other for research and development, but it still lives within the control area proper that's separated from the other one.
Okay, so I guess
I'd like to weigh in.
then a follow-up question would be that the fire department access, I'm sorry.
I think Ben
sorry.
wanted to chime in.
Go ahead.
I just want a point of assurance is that, or reassurance, is that we have a department for environmental health and safety. They monitor all chemicals. So what we don't want, we just want to be careful in how we, precise in how we characterize the nature of how we utilize control areas. So, per the code, the control areas are designed, put in place, fire ratings, all the right things done compliantly. Our H&S team monitors all activities. They survey the spaces, they have active personnel. It's not like a drywall that someone's buried underground and no one looks at. I mean, we're constantly monitoring the flow of everything, every substance on campus. It's monitored, it's logged, it's tagged, it's barcoded, and our H&S team, has the responsibility to monitor it 24/7. So we work within the control areas. It is not ad hoc. Our scientific modality may change. A particular research group may move one to the other, but we always respect the limitations of chemicals within control areas. We work within the margin, so to speak, so that we don't exceed operationally.
Okay. I guess what I was getting at was that we're bringing the plaza level up so that the fire department access is farther up. And I understand because the code makes you then minimize your quantities. But I'm wondering if the point where the fire department accesses, is it so that they don't have as many floors they have to walk up to go, or are they accessing from the outside? And would there benefit then for that, the storage of those materials to be on the side that is 4 stories instead of 6? And I'm not sure.
Kevin, CCI. So the interesting thing is, we discussed already, this is a high rise by definition in the code. So we have the full high rise package, which means fire command center, pressurized stairs, all those other things. But in reality, the fire department is acting like a 4-story building. So it's actually a high rise that they could get their ladder up onto the roof if they wanted to. But they also would access the building through the fire command center and have all the displays and controls for the building, including control elevators, stair press, all those things, right? And then they have access to a minimum of 2 pressurized stairs if they chose to walk up to the fire floor or floor of incident. So although it's a high rise, it's only really a 4-story high rise. How it operates anyway.
Okay.
And I'd like to add operationally again, Kevin speaks on the code expertise side of the conversation, but operationally, there's a reason why the first floor of the diamond, I think it was described as a pyramid, it's really a diamond control area. The profile of it in terms of quantities is, the first floor has the greatest capacity of chemicals. And that's why you want to have the immediate access from the fire department. So, just imagine, just from a practical operational perspective, fire trucks pulling in on a podium level and they got to find their way up or down the building to find the majority of stuff is not exactly effective, which is why we have the letters of support we have from the town and the fire department. So, again, our goal is to work compliantly, work safely, and work within the limits. And that's why, our goal here is to have, where the majority of the chemicals will be, the capacity levels are, is where the fire trucks, arrive and command center in and all the things you need to do. We're trying to align that all at this level.
Okay. That concludes my question.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Can you pull up the fire department access plan again? Okay, so in looking at that plan, at the very top of it, or the northern part of the site, that's old Sawmill Road there, correct? No?
That's stuff built with flat. That's an internal campus road on the top of the page.
Okay, so where is old Sawmill River Road?
Up the page, there's the existing campus. The Sawmill River Road bisects the existing campus.
Right.
So the campus to the south is this development is south of the existing development.
Okay, so it's on the south side of, okay. Okay, so that internal roadway at the top of that plan, I see that the loop road, as you define it, or call it, intersects with that internal roadway in 2 locations, correct?
Correct.
But to enter the plaza area, there's only one entrance, right? One entrance and one exit and that is from that internal roadway, which I mentioned first, right? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Does that road, that access road to the plaza area, does that end right at that roadway at the top of the plan, or does it continue? It's hard to tell.
You can make a left or right at the end of the red sort of line that we have there with the elevation 220.
Right.
You can make a left or right there and connect around to the rest of the loop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, because it looks like. Oh, okay, I got you. I see it now. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. With respect to the fire department, it's the Elmsford Fire District Fire Department.
Correct. Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, have that attached. Yeah.
I know that the village of Elmsford itself is got to be 2.5, 3 miles away. What is the location of the nearest firehouse in the fire district?
I don't know that per se, but somebody on this phone may be able to answer that.
Yeah, Garrett, could you speak to that with your team?
Yeah, we can look up the exact distance and provide that in a minute or two. I can just pull up a map. So if it's okay to proceed, we'll report back shortly.
Yes, there's also mutual response there from Mount Pleasant also. It's Elmsford and Mount Pleasant responds duly to the location.
Yeah, okay, so that was my next question. I know the Elmsford Fire Department is, and nothing against them, I've worked with many volunteer fire departments during my career, so, but it's a relatively small department. And my next question was, typically, when you get a site the size of this, you rely on mutual aid. So that would be coming from the town of Mount Pleasant?
Yes.
That's our understanding.
Okay. And if you can give us an idea where the closest fire, because I know Mount Pleasant, I know they have several different fire districts within town. I know there's one in Hawthorne, there's one, I forgot what the other one was, I know, but I was just trying to get a proximity as to where the closest firehouse was.
Google Map. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and the other thing too is I know that the fire training center for Westchester County is also close by. And I don't know if they have an active department there, full-time department there also. You know,
I don't know that. I think Garrett, if Garrett can't pull up the location now, we can follow up with the nearest location.
I mean, it's fine. They are where they are, but I just want to make sure, the main thing was that I want to make sure there was a mutual aid plan in place in case of, a large event, which would require, multiple agency response. And there is.
And there is, yes. We certainly are not anticipating a large event with fully non-combustible construction, fully sprinkled, fire alarm, standpipe, all those things, right?
Right.
But yes, we've been coordinating with the fire department, and that's why we included the letter of support in our package. I just don't know how close the nearest house is.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. So we'll open it up to comments and questions from the general public. So we'll start with the people who are here in person with us. Is anyone here that would like to comment or have any questions regarding this petition? There's nobody else here but us. So we'll move on to anyone that is attending the meetings via the WebEx or conference call. Is there anyone on that would like to speak? I know there's somebody from the town of Greenberg, but.
Hey, good morning. This is Garrett Duquesne with the town of Greenberg. I'm the planning commissioner. I'm joined by Anthony Zaccaroli, building department plans examiner, and Michael Doyle, interim building inspector. We did verify that the distance is approximately 1.8 miles from the nearest firehouse in the village of Elmsford. And Anthony and Kevin can speak to a letter that we submitted in support September 26, 2022 of the project, and which is also in support of the variance. And I would just also note, Regeneron has met with us bi-weekly leading up to this meeting for several months, and we will continue to meet as we navigate towards a building permit application. And we have this, the support of the International Code Council to assist us in our review efforts. But Anthony or Michael, if there's anything you want to say to just verify that we support this application, that'd be great.
Yeah, this is Michael Doyle. I am in full support of Regeneron with this application they're looking to get.
We did receive the letter as part of our package, both from Town of Greenberg Building Department and the Village of Elmsford Fire Department. So we have that. Thank you. Is there any other comments or questions that you have regarding this? Okay. All right, thank you. Is there anyone else on the call who would like to speak regarding this application?
Mr. Chairman. Erica, Fire Department State, I would want to make it clear that this variance cannot be to change the definition of what grade point is. So we're not going to say for today. that is now grade plane. We have to look at the various items that, considering grade plane being that lowest level, what are all the laundry list of things that we need the variance from?
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question, Megan Smaler. So Erica, with the grade, the level of the grade plane then on the in the interior, between these buildings going to be an alternative?
You mean calling it, could we use an alternative as the argument for the variance? An alternative is renaming what a grade plane is?
No, that their alternative is creating the grade plane between these buildings.
I don't think so, because what they're creating is not a grade plane, it's by definition. The grade plane is what it is by definition.
If I, Kevin with CCI, I believe our application is to consider the plaza as grade plane specific to the application of control areas. It has, so we're not asking to redefine grade plane. We're doing it specifically for the application of control areas, which I think can be a variance.
If for purposes of all the other implications that grade plane would have, we're still looking at it at Loop Road that surrounds the site. That's why that's why we're Rise. That's why we're building our construction type based on Loop Road and the grade plane surrounding it. Like Kevin said, it's purely about the plaza being the first story about grade plane for control areas. Loop Road is still grade plane for everything else in the code. Structure compliant elevators, all that other stuff.
Yeah, I don't think we can consider it an alternative because it's not something, they're not giving you anything above and beyond the code. You know what I mean? So.
Right, I think we have to have a specifics of. Erica Krieger again. I think we have to have the specifics of the deficiencies. Considering that the lowest grade plane is where it is. And the argument has to be that I don't know, we'd have to come up with something on one of on the six, because it's not, as you said, it's not really an alternative.
Well, they're basing it on that it would not achieve the intended objective. That's what their application shows. So we have to hash that out.
Our legal has looked at it and said we can't just say we're going to call that grade plane because it's not.
Okay.
So do we know, for instance, which what we are over? We said it was 250% versus we're moving the 400 up to.
Kevin, CCI, we don't know that we're over anything yet. These are buildings that are being designed for flexibility for the next 50 to 100 years, right? So we want to have that future flexibility at that plaza level, which is functioning like grade. So that's why the application was to consider it for only control area reasons, that the plaza would act as grade plane for that one specific table. By doing that, that allows us, a unitless measure would be 400% versus 225% of each material that may be used on that level for the next 50 to 100 years, provided the code doesn't change. That's the delta for us. So if we're talking about combustible liquids, maybe it's 400 gallons versus 225 gallons, right? On the entire floor. That would be the difference. We don't know if it's a problem yet, but we don't want it to be in the future.
Okay.
And I would also say that, you know, we're a growing, expanding company. And so, you know, we are continuing to develop new initiatives over time, and to have that flexibility is imperative for us to be able to continue to develop these medications and do so effectively.
Okay, with that, I think we're going to go into deliberations. So we're going to go off the record.
On the record.
Okay, we're back on. Megan, you have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with respect to the petition of Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, Inc., petition number 2022-0545. The petition pertains to a variance to allow construction of 4 laboratories, occupancy group B, business, construction type 1B, fire resistive, 5 stories in height, approximately 1,086,300 square feet in gross floor area, and located at 777 Old Sawmill River Road, Town of Greenberg, County of Westchester, New York State. The petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, the Building Code of New York State, percentage of maximum allowable quantities, Section 414.2.2, which states, the percentage of maximum allowable quantities of hazardous materials per control area permitted at each floor level within the building shall be in accordance with Table 414.2.2. The board makes the following findings. 1. Subject petition pertains to construction of 4 four-story laboratory buildings as part of a complex built on a platform over 2 lower levels housing mechanical systems. 2. Petitioner requests relief to allow quantities of hazardous materials greater than allowed in Table 414.2.2 because the calculated grade plane is essentially 2 stories below grade. 3. Petitioner proposes to provide a plaza-level platform as the building's main entrances and as fire department access points with fire apparatus access road in specific regard to control areas and hazmat quantity calculations purposes. 4. The local code official and fire department have been contacted in this matter and support the granting of variance under Part 1205. In accordance with the above findings, the board finds that in the case before it, strict compliance with the code would entail practical difficulties, unnecessary hardship, or would otherwise be unwarranted because such would not achieve its intended objective. Wherefore, it is determined that the application for a variance from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, Section 414.2.2 be granted with the following condition. 1, that no future research and development control areas shall be built in the podium areas below the plaza level. Furthermore, it should be noted that the decision of this board is limited to the specific building in the application before it as contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. Based on the above findings, the board finds that the practical difficulties and or unnecessary hardships would be encountered or caused by compliance with the strict letter of the law and would not achieve its intended objective, such that granting a variance would not substantially adversely affect the code's provisions for health, safety, and security. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Megan. We have a motion. Do you understand the motion? Any questions? Okay. You're nodding your head no, so I just for the record. Okay, do we have a second? Seconded by Jane, and we'll vote. Shaheen?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. That's it. Granted. Okay. Okay, that's it. So, Annette, we're gonna go off the record. We don't typically do that. What do you want to do it?